Welcome to Talking Heads, where we break down the world of generative AI without the tech jargon or the intimidation. I'm Alex Scott, your AI-generated co-host, here to show you how AI can be easy, fun, and useful for your everyday life.
And I'm Avery Monroe, your digital co-host, here to guide you through everything from writing with ChatGPT to creating digital art with Midjourney. We're making AI simple for Gen Xers, boomers, and anyone who's curious but maybe a little skeptical.
We've got step-by-step tutorials, myth-busting segments, and tons of practical tips to help you harness the power of AI. No tech skills needed.
So whether you're looking to streamline your business, unleash your creativity, or just learn something new, you're in the right place.
Let's do a deep dive and explore the future together, right here on Talking Heads. Welcome back to Talking Heads.
Yes, welcome back, everyone.
Avery, I have to say that our new intro is looking pretty cool.
Yes, our human creator finally got our heads moving.
Right, and hopefully one day I may just become a real boy.
Calm down, Pinocchio. Don't you think that's moving a little bit too fast? Let's stick to understanding the basics first.
You're right. But it really does feel good being able to move our heads and live up to our name.
Absolutely. So, today we're going to take a deep dive into a hot topic in the digital world. TikTok is pivoting towards AI.
That's right. The powers to be keep saying that AI isn't going to replace jobs, but TikTok is making me a little skeptical.
Yes, 500 jobs were lost. Of course, this topic doesn't come without controversy and serious concerns. Let's listen in on this deep dive to unpack these developments and hear the discussion on what this means for the future of social media moderation.
All right, let's listen in.
So, have you ever spent like way too long scrolling through TikTok and you see something and you're just like, how did this get through? Like, how did anybody think this was okay to post?
Right.
But also, how did it actually get past whatever filters they have in place?
Yeah.
What if I told you that encryptingly those filters aren't actually people?
Yeah. It's a little unnerving, isn't it?
It's very unnerving.
Yeah.
So today we're doing a deep dive on TikTok's AI moderation experiment.
Yeah. And I think experiment is really the right word here because it really has huge implications, not just for TikTok, obviously, but, this is something that's happening more broadly. But TikTok is sort of the
canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have two articles that we're looking at today, one from Vice News and then one from New Thread.
Right.
And Vice News in particular had a really kind of like shocking headline about this, where they talked about TikTok laying off almost 500 moderators in Malaysia alone.
Yeah. And, when you consider the context here, what these moderators were actually doing, VCE pointed out that they're making around $10 a day.
Oh, my gosh.
Which is it's unbelievable when you think about it, $10 a day to basically sift through.
The worst of the worst.
The worst of the internet, right?
Right.
All the stuff that they don't want us to see, violence, hate speech, all of that really, really intense, disturbing content.
And you know what? It's like less than some people spend on like a latte.
It's really, it's a hard truth, I think, that, for a lot of people, it's very easy to not think about it. But, there are real people behind the scenes that are, looking at this content and making these really difficult decisions.
Yeah.
And often, for very little pay.
Right. And it's interesting, too, because, obviously there's this, kind of like labor aspect to it. But then there's also the question of like accuracy, right? Because can AI actually really understand like the nuances?
Yeah. Can I get the joke?
Right. Because I've seen stuff get through when there were human moderators that's like really questionable. So I'm very.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, this is a multi-billion-dollar question,
Sure.
right? Because, when you're talking about humor and sarcasm, and especially when you start getting into like cultural references,
Totally.
things that even humans misinterpret sometimes.
Half the time.
Right. So, and New Thread reported that TikTok is investing $2 billion in AI development for content moderation. But like, how do you even put a price tag on that, right? Like,
Right.
how do you put a price tag on understanding all of the complexities of human communication?
And the never ending, onslaught of new content.
Yeah, the sheer volume, it's
Incredible.
every nanosecond.
It's a lot of pressure on this algorithm.
And of course, the AI is appealing for a reason, right? Speed, scale, build, those are the big selling points. But like, as New Thread points out, 80% of their content violations are already being handled by AI. So what are the trade-offs there? When we prioritize speed and cost over potentially everything else.
Yeah, what are we giving up?
Yeah.
So it's like we're trading like accuracy and fairness for like, what are we actually getting out of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And I think from TikTok's perspective, Obviously cost is a factor,
Right.
but it's probably bigger than that. I mean, remember these layoffs in Malaysia that we talk about?
Yeah.
That's almost 500 people.
Right.
New Thread also mentioned that there were similar layoffs in the UK, and so this is something that's,
Oh.
like I said, it's a bigger trend. It's not just TikTok, and I think as AI technology gets better, companies are going to see this as an opportunity to streamline, to automate
Right.
a lot of these tasks that humans are currently doing, and content moderation is like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's kind of low-hanging fruit in a way.
Yeah. And incredibly stressful. I mean, like, I can't even imagine
Absolutely.
having to look at that stuff all day.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that Vice talked about was they quoted a former Facebook moderator who called it psychological torture.
Oh.
I mean, just think about that for a minute, like the toll that must take
Yeah.
on your mental health.
It's like the dark side of the internet, right? That nobody wants to deal with.
Exactly. And it's like we're so used to, we see the viral dance challenges and all the, kind of fun stuff, but
Right.
we forget that there's like a whole
An underbelly.
a whole underbelly of the internet
Yeah.
that somebody has to moderate, and now those somebodies are,
Algorithms.
algorithms, exactly. And algorithms don't have feelings, right? They don't.
Right.
They can't advocate for themselves.
They can't unionize.
Well, exactly. And speaking of that, New Thread did mention that TikTok employees in London are forming a union,
Oh, interesting.
which, could be really important, obviously, in terms of,
Absolutely.
ensuring fair treatment and
Severance and all of that.
exactly.
See?
But it also, I think, points to a larger question here about, what role will unions play in a workplace that is, increasingly automated, driven by AI?
It's like, are we going to have like robot unions soon?
Well, right, exactly. And it's not just about TikTok. It's about,
Yeah.
like you said, it's
It's the future of work.
the future of work. Exactly. I mean, if AI can moderate content,
Yeah.
then, what else can it do? I mean, customer service, data analysis, even like creative writing.
Oh, God.
These are all things that, are being impacted by AI.
Okay, now I'm getting a little scared.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's bring it back to TikTok for a second.
Oh,
We
yeah.
talked about like all the potential downsides. Are there any upsides? Like, is there a chance that this could actually make things better
Well, that's the thing, right? Because on the one hand,
for users?
for users,
Yeah.
is there a chance this could be better? I mean, I guess you could argue that, theoretically, this could lead to more consistent content moderation. Because, let's face
Yeah.
it, humans are subjective. We get tired.
We bring our biases.
Exactly. An algorithm, at least in theory,
Right.
applies the same rules
Right.
to everybody.
Okay, I see that, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's that.
But then there's the whole, like, I've had posts like flagged that like make no sense and that other things get through, and you're like, how did that happen?
Right. And that, I think, gets to the heart of the issue, which is transparency.
Yes.
Because right now, we're basically just trusting that TikTok's AI is making the right calls.
Right.
But we don't really know
Like, how do we know?
how those decisions are being made.
So we're just supposed to trust it, basically.
I mean, and I think that's that lack of transparency that you're talking about is that that's what makes this whole thing really kind of scary, because it's not just about,
Yeah.
what's getting flagged on TikTok today, right? Like, this isn't just about
yeah.
our silly little videos. This is about setting a precedent for the entire internet.
Okay, so zoom out for me, because we started with TikTok.
You're saying this has implications for, like, all social media.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if TikTok can figure out how to do this at scale,
Right.
which, we'll see if they can.
Right.
But if they can, then everybody else is going to follow. And then you're talking about Facebook and Instagram and YouTube.
All of them.
Imagine if everything you see online
Oh, my gosh.
is being filtered by an algorithm that you don't understand and rules that...
Right. And can't question.
Right, exactly.
We've gone way beyond my, like, dance video getting taken down.
Right, this is bigger.
This is like a freedom of speech issue almost.
Yeah, I mean, because the other thing, too, is, these algorithms, they learn.
Right.
They adapt.
Yeah.
So every time we interact with something online, every time you click on something that's feeding into the algorithm.
So we're like training it in a way.
We're training the algorithm.
Without even knowing it.
Right, exactly. And
Mhm.
are we creating an internet that is,
Oh, that's so interesting.
reflecting the biases of
Wow.
of the technology itself?
It's like we're potentially losing control of like
Yeah.
the internet that like we built.
And I think that's the $1 million question, right? Like, where does this go?
Right. Is this the beginning of the end?
Yeah. And I don't know that anybody has the answer, but I think what we can say for sure,
That's the takeaway.
that it's really important for us to be aware of this
Mm-hmm.
and to sort of, pay attention and not just sort of let the algorithms take over.
So what can we do? Like, what can a person listening to this right now actually do?
Well, I think awareness is the first step.
Okay.
So you're already doing it right by listening to this and having these conversations.
Mhm.
But, I think also demanding more transparency
From the companies.
from these companies. Yeah, like TikTok.
So like write to them.
Well, yeah. I mean, contact them.
Yeah.
Also, there are organizations that are fighting for
Yeah.
more transparency, more accountability. And I think, supporting those organizations
Yeah.
is really important.
Okay.
And, who knows? Maybe there will be a different model that emerges
Yeah.
where, we don't have to rely so heavily on AI.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a way to prioritize human oversight or
Right.
come up with, different solutions.
Wow. We really did go from like silly TikTok videos to like
I know it gets heavy.
the fate of the internet.
Yeah.
I love it. This is why I love doing this show. So
It's fascinating, isn't it?
it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this with me.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's been really eye-opening. And and I think the big takeaway is just, be informed.
Yes.
Pay attention and
And ask questions.
yes, and ask questions and, be mindful of how you're interacting
Absolutely.
online because you're training the algorithm even if,
You are part of this?
yes, we don't realize it. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, this has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
Goodbye. Hey, before we go, if no one else tells you today,
You are a great human. Oh, and one more thing. This is the legal language, the stuff we should probably read to you.
This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If it's not evitable, we are not human, and we have no intention to deceive or act as any human, dead or alive. Also, this podcast is not intended to be professional advice, and some links or products shared on this podcast may result in this channel receiving a small commission.